Hey everybody, what's going on? It is Jason with the Boardgame Mechanics, and today we're going to take a look at a game called the Lunar Dial. The Lunar Dial is a game published by Goliath Games from the Morbid Network. Plays 2 to 4 players, ages 14 plus. There's no time on the box, but 15-20 minutes. It's pretty quick. And in the Lunar Dial, let's see if there's theme. We'll talk about some stuff later. Your goal is to earn the most Moonstones at the end of the game. So there's the theme. You're trying to collect Moonstones. It's a weird, like, what are those things called? Horoscope or whatever. The stars in the sky, I can't think of the word, Virgo, all that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. It's that, but really you're just playing cards and you're trying to collect them. It's a set collection game with some funky twists and some really interesting rule changes that happen. So if you want to see how all that works, click the link in the video description. You can watch us play through the whole game, which is effectively a round, but that's the whole game. If you don't want to see that and you want us to talk about components, then stay right here and let's talk about them. All right, so the components are pretty nice. Now, there's going to be a lot of similarities to a game that we've covered on the channel before called, let me just take it off the shelf right here, if I can get it. I should have probably got this out ahead of time, but just pretty okay, called Illimat. And they're going to have a lot of similarities, and I'll talk about them at the final thoughts, but just keep that in mind. We'll come back to it. But this has a bigger box, so this has a decent, it's a nice box. Everything fits in it. It's not, it's not huge. So a good box. Nice rule book, tells you how to play. Really simple rules. It's playing a card, matching a card. That's basically it. Now let's talk about the components that matter. This is the game board. I'm going to try to hold this up. Hopefully you can see it pretty nicely, but a nice little fabric game board, which I really appreciate. And there are Moonstones. These are what you're trying to collect. Nothing fancy there, but cool little stones. And this awesome Lunar Dial goes in the center of the mat, spins around as cards are played. And while we're talking about cards, let's talk about the cards. It's a deck of cards. I think there are 4 suits. There's half moon, crescent moon, new moon, and full moon. So big stack of cards. They look like this on the back. They're pretty nice quality. I'll talk about some of that in a second. And they look something like this. So this is a crescent. It has a crescent picture. New moon is this. Half moon, this. And then full moons look like this. And whenever you play these, it's going to rotate the dial in the middle of the table, one direction, however you want to. And then there are some special cards. You can collect a Moonstone if you collect the Goddess of the Full Moon. Let me see if I can find her. Goddess of the Full Moon. So if you collect this 13 card, you get a Moonstone when you collect it. If you collect the most Full Moon cards, you get a Moonstone. And if you collect the most cards, period, throughout the game, you get a Moonstone. So that's the components. Now let me talk about one issue that I have, and this could just be my copy. All the cards come in this cool box, which is fantastic. Well, these cards come in this box. But the issue with mine is they're like warped. So when they're sitting down, whoa, that's terrible. Let me put it on the box so you can see it. So when you sit them down, they're not sitting flat. It could have been because it was sitting outside when I delivered it. I don't know, when Amazon delivered it. And then these, same deal. They're not sitting flat either. They're just in the box and they're all warped. So not a huge issue, but they don't lay flat on the board, which is kind of annoying. I don't think it's a fault of the game. I think it might be me just ignoring it when it got delivered. But keep that in mind. If you buy it, the cards may be warped. So something to think about. But overall, I like the components. They're really nice. This board's fantastic. Love it. Unnecessary, but I dig it. And yeah, so those are the components. Let's move on and talk about what we think about the game. All right, so this game is... I'm going to start comparing it to Illimat now. So this game is effectively Illimat Lite. Now we've covered Illimat on the channel. We'll link to it at the end screen and probably in the video description. And in Illimat, what you're doing is you are playing cards 2 of the same ways. You're either sowing them or harvesting, which is collecting and casting and collecting. But they've taken the stockpiling in Illimat, which is kind of confusing, and streamlined it down into this. The stockpiling was really funky in Illimat, and in this, as long as cards in your field are the same in the realm, and they're called fields in Illimat, as long as the cards in your realm are the same or add up to the card you're playing, you can collect them all. That's a fantastic change. I like it. It makes it way easier to teach, way easier to explain. The stockpile is kind of a pain in the neck in the original, but that's what it is. The original Illimat also has these cards. They're called luminaries in that. And when you flip them over, they look like tarot cards or just a picture, and they all have some kind of special ability. Kind of like these, but a little deeper. They may change how the field works. They may always make it so it's sunshine in that field, so the thing in the middle never rotates. These, similar idea, but just simpler. So for example, the bull, you can use, when this is revealed, you can move a card from one field to the other. Not bad. Immediately take another turn. That's pretty fantastic. The Cancer card. Select one player, look at their hand. So you're going to get a look at their hand. Not to mention the artwork on these cards is fantastic. Scorpio, take a Moonstone. So you get a Moonstone for that one. Sagittarius, give a card from your hand to another player, then draw back up to 3 cards. That's really cool. Capricorn, take a Moonstone from the mat. So there you go. So just simpler rules, but same deal. You reveal it, and you collect what you do what it says. In Illimat, instead of Moonstones, there's luminaries. They're these little like pewter figures that you're trying to collect whenever you clear a field or flip over a luminary, you get one. You have the most cards, all that kind of thing. You're going to score some, and there's points too. You're trying to race the points. But this one does everything Illimat does, kind of strips it down to an easier package. Takes some of the strategy out. I prefer Illimat, I think, but if I want to play with people who don't play a ton of games, I might bust this one out just because it's easier to teach and easier to play and fast. But as far as the two of them go, Illimat is my game of choice. But because this one shared some similarities, I had to pick it up because I love Illimat. It's an unsung, underrated game. I saw this one at Meyer, and I thought, man, that looks really like Illimat. I got to reading it. I watched a video, and I was like, man, that looks just like Illimat. Designers are the same. It's a different publishing company, but the designers are the same. So it looks like they just took Illimat and kind of made it more big box store friendly. Kind of stripped it down and made it easier to play and easier to teach, which is not a bad thing. I like Illimat better, but this definitely, if you want to get a flavor of this and you really like this, move up to Illimat because Illimat is fantastic. There's some expansions for Illimat you can get. Maybe they'll make some expansions for this. That'd be cool. More Zodiac cards would be fantastic. Just that's all that Illimat has, but the more stuff for this game, I think the better. So I'm going to give this a BGM Accept the Seal. This is going to get a 7 out of 10 on BGG, which is a 3.5 out of 5 wrenches on our arbitrary wrench scale. It means absolutely nothing, but we like to give it the games that we enjoy, and that is what I'm going to do. So that is the Lunar Dial from, I forget, Goliath Games, I believe. And I'm Jason with the Board Game Mechanics, and as always, keep gaming.